So this is me in 2009. My wife says I look like I aged a little bit, but I still think I look like I'm 12. But for years, I wanted to serve in the military. I wanted to contribute to something bigger than myself. You know, I just had that natural desire to serve. And I put it off for years because I didn't know how I was going to be able to handle that environment with my headaches. I knew I could handle it without the headaches, but I didn't know if I could handle it, and how could I do it with chronic headaches when I get headaches 3 or 4 or 5 times a week, where all I want to do is find some sort of relief, and usually that's a quiet, dark, cool place that I can just relax. How can you do that in the military? But in 2009, I mustered up the courage to do it, and it was not easy. I remember my first day of basic training. I'm coming in on the bus, Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and my very first day, I can tell I've got a headache coming on. I'm thinking, no, like not today, not my very first day. And so by the time we get there, it's a full headache. And I didn't really know what to expect with basic training. You know, kind of all I really had to go off of was kind of the movies and the depiction, kind of the stereotype of drill sergeants and basic training and boot camp. And it was pretty accurate. Like, that's about how it was. When we pulled up, the bus that hadn't even stopped yet, when the doors open and 2 drill sergeants jump on the bus and get off the bus, get out, you know, like just the normal stuff, just like in the movies. And I'm thinking, gosh, why do I have to have a headache while this is going on? And to be honest, like, I was excited for the military experience. Like, I wanted the experience of drill sergeants at boot camp and all of that, but I didn't want to have that and with the headaches. So I'm thinking, like, oh, I just want to embrace this. And it's so hard. And the first thing they have us do once they get us off the bus is we're doing push-ups in the parking lot on the pavement in July in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. So it's hot. And if you're watching this, I know you probably suffer from headaches. You know, the last thing you want to do when you have a headache is, 1, to get your blood pumping, because you get that pulsing pain through your head. And then 2, to have extra heat. Oh, those are 2 of the worst things when you have a headache. But that's what we're doing. And I went through a lot more days like that in basic training that I just had to grit and bear it, because you just can't tell the drill sergeant, hey, oh, I got a headache. You know, it just doesn't work like that. I mean, you can go to sick call and things like that, but you know, you become that soldier, and it wasn't what I wanted for my military experience. So I just grit my teeth and was able to bear through it. Fast forward several years, I've been in the military for several years, and I'm standing on at a train station in Fort Hood in Texas. And again, a hot summer day, and we're loading equipment on that's being prepared to ship over to Iraq and Afghanistan. Some tanks, some Humvees, some generators, things like that. And so we're loading them onto these rail cars at the train station. And it's just an exceptionally excruciating headache. It's just where every pulse just pounds like a ping hammer hitting you. And, you know, I feel like the pressure behind my eyes and in my face. And, you know, it's to the point where the pain is just building this nausea in my stomach. And we have, since we're working in this type of environment, we're wearing our Kevlars, our combat helmets, which are pretty heavy. I think they're like 8 pounds, and they fit pretty tight, and you got the chin strap coming down. So I've got this extra pressure on my head. And like, I just remember thinking, well, 1, I was worried I was going to throw up in front of my battle buddies, in front of my fellow troops, and nobody wants to throw up in front of people. And so I got that, and then I'm trying to focus on my work, and I just remember it was the point where I was just like, I can't do this anymore, and it was hard. It was like at that point I just kind of hit a wall, and so 2 weeks later I resigned my commission with the U.S. Army, and really kind of started my journey to find a way to get rid of headaches. I knew it was just taking too much of my life, and I had to find a solution. And by this time, I had 3 surgeries. I had a tonsillectomy. I'd had 2 sinus surgeries because as a kid, I had frequent headaches, and a lot of times they'd come with pressure in the face and in the eyes. So I assumed they were sinus headaches. So my mom would take me into the ENT and allergist, and I'd get nasal irrigation and flushings. And then when I was in college, I had my first sinus surgery, and I was so hopeful. Like I thought, oh, this is the answer. I mean, 100%, I thought it was going to be the cure. And no, it didn't. The headaches persisted. I saw other benefits from the surgery, but the headaches persisted. So I had a second sinus surgery a few years later, and same thing. Headaches persisted. Third sinus surgery. Headaches persisted. So I'm just kind of like beaten down, feeling like, oh, I feel like I've tried everything. I've been allergy testing. They can't find any food triggers or allergy triggers that are showing up with the allergy tests. So it's really kind of low about it, but I continued to persist it on. I was determined I was going to find something. I tried different diets, cutting out dairy, cutting out gluten, things like that, and the headaches persisted. Then, I read a lot of books, read a lot of articles, and I'd find little things that would help here and help there. And then I came across a book by Dr. David Buckles. He is a neurologist who treats headaches, specializes in treating headaches for over 20 years. That's at the time this book was written, which the book's probably a few years old. So he's probably been treating for 20 or 30 years. And this book was phenomenal. I highly recommend that you read it. It helps you understand headaches, because before I thought there were all these different types of headaches, and this is kind of the conventional wisdom. But he really shows how, in his experience and his research, the vast majority, almost all headaches, are caused by the activation of the migraine mechanism in the brain. And it's largely due to what he refers to as triggers. Now, triggers are anything that could cause or contribute to you getting a headache. And then he also refers to threshold, which threshold is basically the level at which your triggers, the amount of triggers that you can have before they become a headache. And people with chronic headaches often have a very low threshold, and they often have a high sensitivity to those triggers. And one thing that may be a trigger to one person might not be a trigger to another person. And that was one of the things that was a challenge for me, because I would try to look for very exact cause and effect. So I ate this, I didn't get a headache today, so that must not be something that causes. Or I ate this and I did get a headache. But he shows how things can build over time. So you could have something that's a trigger on Monday, and not have a headache Monday or Tuesday, have another trigger on Tuesday, not have a headache, Wednesday, Thursday. Well, Thursday, maybe that's when that trigger exceeded your threshold, and boom, now you have a headache. But you're trying to identify the cause, which actually was something that happened on Monday, or maybe Monday and Tuesday, or maybe every day, and it built into a headache. So it's really hard to identify your specific triggers. But he gives great advice on some of the more known triggers that affect many people. And these are, one of them is MSG, monosodium glutamate. Try to cut that out as much as possible. Sodium nitrates and nitrates, which are preservatives, things used to help preserve meats, especially aged meats and cured meats like bacon, salami, pepperoni, sandwich meat. And then there's several others that surprise me, like some of the headache medications, acetaminophen, huge headache trigger, which you're taking it to relieve headaches, and yes, in the moment it relieves headaches, but once it wears off, you're more likely to get a rebound headache. It's more likely to cause another headache that's even worse than the one that you had. Another one that surprised me was caffeine, because caffeine is usually combined with one of the few things that I found relief from headaches was with traditional medication was acetaminophen combined with caffeine. So like Excedrin, I think Anacin with the what's the word? Not acetaminophen, the other one. Aspirin. Oh, I couldn't think of it. Aspirin. So aspirin with caffeine. And it's because at the moment when you have it in your system, the caffeine helps. But then again, once it wears off, you're more likely to get a rebound headache and you're more likely to get a more severe headache. So there's other things he talks about. So my point bringing this up, this book helped me cut my headaches in half. But now, just half. So I would still have 2, maybe 3 headaches a week, which I was so grateful for, so happy. But I was super strict. I'm a pretty disciplined person, especially after being in the military. I can be very disciplined. And I did my absolute best to avoid those triggers. And the sad part is, they're just ubiquitous. They're everywhere. They're in our food, they're in our drinks, they're in supplements, they're in medications. It was very hard to avoid, even as much as I did. And it wasn't enough for me. Now, I believe I have a very low threshold and a high sensitivity to triggers. So someone else, they may be able to just follow this guidance in here and be perfectly fine. They may never have another headache. For me, I needed something else. At the time, I didn't know what that was. But then I came across another book, The Mood Cure. Now, this book focuses on different vitamins, amino acids, supplements that can be taken to help stabilize moods and have a calming effect. And it was interesting because as I was reading it, it's not about headaches at all, but it contrasted with what Dr. Buchholz talked about in his book with triggers. He referred to them as they would have an excitatory effect on the brain. And in my mind, I'm thinking kind of a frenzied, disorganized state. And then Dr. Ross, in her book, she's talking about these supplements and or really vitamins and amino acids that have a calming effect, that have an organizing effect, a balancing effect. And I'm thinking, kind of, so my job in the military, I was an intelligence analyst. And so I was really trained to connect dots, to look at 2, 3, 4, multiple different things that by themselves may seem independent and try to find connections. Where are these things connected? How are they related? And so my brain was automatically kind of thinking in that mindset. And so I'm thinking, well, if the triggers have an excitatory effect and a frenzied effect, and these other vitamins and amino acids have a calming and a balancing effect, maybe that could be the key. So I went through the book and I tried, there's tons of different things listed, and for probably about 2 years, I tried every suggestion, every recommendation, every combination, different levels, different doses, different frequencies, and finding what worked for me. And I would find things that would help a little, and then help a little more, help a little more. And finally, I was able to develop an optimal formula that kept my headaches away completely. Now, I wasn't super strict with my diet anymore, but I didn't go out of my way to eat MSGs or sodium nitrates and nitrites. I was reasonable with things. I kind of looked at it as, I'm sure that I could override this formula, the headache relief. It's kind of, I look at it kind of like diet and exercise. You could have the best exercise regimen, but if your diet is poor, you're not going to see the results that you would get if you combine both of them. So, and that's how I feel about this. So now if you don't have a very low threshold for headaches like I do, you might be able to get by with just diet, or you might be able to get by with just taking the supplements, the HeadacheRelief.Life. But for me, it required both. And it does require both. It's ongoing. This isn't something you take, you have a headache, so you take it. That's not going to work. Oh, it might. I've never tried it. But it works by keeping those triggers at bay, countering those triggers every day, because every day you're exposed to triggers. And this works by countering those, reducing that excitatory effect that those triggers have. And really that's what started my path to success. Really, these two books. There were so many other things that led up to it, but these are kind of the culminating things that kind of allow me to put the dots together and come up with this formula. And it's just been life-changing. Absolutely life-changing. I feel like I literally have taken my life back from headaches. And my sincerest hope is that I can help other people do it too. I've helped, I don't know how many family members, friends, their friends, coworkers. One person has benefited from it, and they tell their friends, and like I said earlier, that's what got me started on this manufacturing journey and being able to make it available publicly. And it's just, nothing is more satisfying, except for maybe relieving my own headaches, than hearing someone else tell me how it's changed their life, how it's changed their relationship with their kids, with their spouse, with their work. It's changing their ability to function or productivity at work. People that have been afraid to apply for certain positions or ask for raises, and now they know they can do it because they've gotten their life back from headaches. Think about it. If you have 1 or 2 days, let's just say just 1 day a week, you have a debilitating headaches that's reducing your productivity. That in a 5-day work week, that's a 20% reduction in your capability. Add 2 weeks, 40%. 3 weeks, 60%. I hope my math is right. But you can see the point. You can do so much more than you could before. And I know this from personal experience because I can do so much more than I used to be able to. I mean, I would power through headaches pretty well just because I had to. And I'm sure you do the same thing. But now here is an opportunity for you to try this. And again, my sincerest hope is that it works wonders for you, that you're able to take back your life from headaches, like I have, and like so many other people that have tried this have been able to do. And that's one of the reasons why I fully offer a full money back guarantee. Because if you don't see the results that you need, then you shouldn't pay for it. You should. I hope that you find help and relief somewhere else. I'll be saddened that it didn't work for you. But that's why I offer this full guarantee for a full month. You can try this, and if it doesn't work for you, then I don't want you to have paid for it. But I do sincerely hope that you'll find help somewhere else.